Education is the backbone in civilization. Without it, we are doomed to perish. In early civilizations starting out, they had to organize ways to teach their population in different levels. In some cases, a diploma, not only you completed your education, but it came with a job in the government. Also, education was sometimes different in certain areas. They taught a book of their faith. For example, in Timbuktu, they made their students memorize the Quran. In this presentation, I will compare and contrast on how early education was formatted and what materials they used in their populations in three different civilizations: China, Timbuktu, and Paris. First, we're going to do comparisons on how Paris, China, and Timbuktu compared on their education and what similarities they shared. Religion has always been a staple in different civilizations, and when they taught their students, they taught about their religion. In Paris, their holy book was the Bible. They would have courses teaching scripture similar to a sermon in church. In Timbuktu, they used their holy book in their teachings called the Quran. In school, they also had strict rules on behaviors, meals, to name a few. In China, they all had school regulations implemented by Master Chen and Master Dong. In this excerpt, there's a couple similarities on their rules with the schools in Paris. In regards to the uniforms, Paris, every individual had to have a unique mark on their clothes, and this mark had to be different from everyone else to make them stand out or be themselves. In China, they were not required to have marks, but the regulations on attire still were similar, that they had to have a uniform. In regard of it, it could not be unusual or extravagant. In China, Zhu Xi stated that students should have masters to follow one particular school of interpretation, which is similar to a subject in today's school. For Paris, Robert Corcon concluded that there is to be no student at Paris who does not have a regular master. To teach, you also must be educated, of course. And in these cultures, you would have to have a license. Now, there are special qualifications to obtain your license. For example, in Paris, they have a strict kind of process of how you can earn your license. First, they would pick two people who believed were qualified to choose the examiners who would examine students to become teachers for their license. The determining process, they have to touch the Bible and swear that they will faithfully examine and proceed through rigorous examinations to qualify candidates for their license. In Timbuktu, they had licenses, but those were passed from other licensed teachers. There is an excerpt where there was a teacher named Muhammad Bagbayago. In this excerpt written by Ahmad Baba, one of his students, Muhammad was a great teacher who taught day in and day out from the early morning to the late evening. And Ahmad talks about how he earned his license by actually being one of Muhammad's best students and was given a license from Muhammad. Now, of course, there's differences, okay, in early educations based on beliefs in different civilizations. In China, Zhu Xi based his teachings off the 5 teachings from Confucius: affection between parent and child, rightness between ruler and minister, differentiation between husband and wife, precedence between elder and younger, and trust between friends. These values, of course, did not pertain to Timbuktu or Paris, because Confucius and his teachings were strictly in China. In China as well, once you graduated, you took a position as an official in the government. In Timbuktu and Paris, your education did not automatically determine what job you would hold with graduating. Now, for regulations in China, if the student had a visitor, okay, the meeting between the student and the visitor can only be in the classroom. That is actually in their school regulations in the written by Master Shen and Master Dong that I touched on earlier when there were similarities. Now in Paris, their rules state that you can even have a visitor have lunch with you. Of course, they would have to buy their own meal. The school would not provide it, but they can join you in other rooms than just the classroom. Now, I hope this presentation has shed some light in the comparisons, like the religious books as a background in the classroom with the Quran and the Holy Bible. Also, that the license was required in teaching and similar into Timbuktu and to Paris. And also that this is explained that there were differences as well in early teachings, based on Confucius with his 5 teachings being the backbone in China. And then also the Chinese education meant that once you graduated, you had a job in the government, versus in Paris and in Timbuktu, you could choose your job after graduating. But thank you so much for your time.